Okay. So this chapter is personality. Very interesting. Probably the most interesting chapter so far. And we'll go over this one also quickly. Okay. So it's important because it's a revision. It's important that you have to study this firsthand. It's just a revision. It's just a summary. Okay. So I'm going to go quick over this. So earlier people used to think, and even till date, a lot of people say that your personality is not so good. So personality say they feel ki, okay, a person who looks good has a great personality or something like that. But that is not all in an individual's personality. There are a lot more things basically. Okay, so here they are saying that uh, it's not just physical appearance, but also your patterns of thinking, feeling, behaving throughout your life. That shows your personality. Okay, so it comes from a Latin word persona, which means mask. So all of these are masks. So basically, it's quite interesting because personality kind of denotes mask. So Greek stage actors used to wear their suitable masks as per the needs of the characters that they had to enact. So if they were enacting as an angry character, they used to wear these masks. So we call this a personality because you'll study in the future in social psychology that basically बहुत सारी you have this dissonance, a cognitive dissonance, which means that uh, your ideal self and your actual self are not the same and all of that. So that's why in the future you'll probably understand why when you study this in a lot more depth that why the word mask sounds very appropriate for a personality, because it shows who you are, but there's a lot more to yourself also. Okay. Um, just hold up. Yep. So the definition that we by heart in this chapter is Gordon Allport's personality is a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determines his unique adjustments to the environment. We made the short form don't W IPS Duai. So don't worry, IPS दुआएं देंगे. So DW is like your dynamic organization within the individual. IPS is individual of those psychological systems that determines, and DUI is determines his unique adjustments to the environment. Okay, what are the factors which shape personality? So you have your heredity basically first, which is what you inherit from your parents, your height, structure, color of eyes. Not just that, but uh, what do you think about yourself, your self concept basically. And a lot of times people say that a lot of mental disorders, all of these things are also hereditary. They come in they are hereditary, so they come in with you in heredity. Okay, another thing which is influencing personality is your endocrine glands, which means your pituitary, thyroid, pancreas. All of these things, they have a direct control over the hormones which are being secreted. So, for example, you have dopamine, thyroxine is, for example, produced by thyroid glands, which leads to nervous tension, irritability, restlessness, emotional stability. In the stress chapter, you will also study about, say, cortisol as a stress hormone. So that is also produced by the endocrine gland. So you can mention that also in an example like this if you're mentioning endocrine glands, because you anyways know that when you study stress. Okay, so your endocrine glands are also responsible for the personality. Your family is, because the kind of a family that you are born up to last year, for the past 8 years, the family structure, all of that really made a big difference. In your in They had a whole section on in the previous textbooks about how single parent, divorced parent, death of a parent, all of these things make a very big impact on your personality, whether you live in a joint family or not. Okay, so parents who show love and respect, their children have more self-esteem, whereas parents who constantly criticize their children are likely to have low self-esteem. People or even kids who are neglected or overprotected, it leads to low self-esteem. Your peer group, that is the people you're around. So when I was working in a juvenile observation home, I went to a lot of slums, and over there, even if the child is born like a saint, but if you're around people who are constantly engaging in violent acts, and also you learn those and you develop a personality like that, you become that kind of a person. Or if you're a part of a, say over here they've said your classroom, your workplace, your sports club, all of these things make a very important impact in your personality. Like your good habits you learn if you have that kind of a peer group, and unhealthy habits if you have those kinds of friends in your school or your neighborhood. Another aspect is your school, basically. Your teacher, in fact, who your teachers are, how they treat you, all of these things, how they teach you, all of these things are very, very important. And for example, teachers who are very encouraging, they are likely to, their students are likely to have a very high self-esteem as compared to teachers who are not so encouraging. So it is, again, school plays another very important role. Okay. um Another thing is mass media, very important, I feel, in today's time, though it's extremely important, because uh, you directly see things around you. Mass media, I feel that whatever your movies show, they kind of directly influence your personality in the future. So we are developing with the films. जितने जब फिल्म्स में ड्रग्स अल्कोहल ये सब चीजें दिखानी ज्यादा शुरू हुई, that's how we tend to adapt, because we learn a lot from and it definitely shapes our personality in general. So basically your entertainment, informal education, socialization, everything, so that has an effect on your individual's development. Okay. Um yeah. Extreme addiction of, obviously it also has a positive impact, like today YouTube. I feel that I've become much better at my skill. I can do a lot better. I know my stuff a lot better, because when I read something, I just don't read it from the text that is available to me. But I go, for example, on YouTube and I see what does a big university like a Harvard University professor teaching the same topic. So obviously it has a positive impact also. But if you have excessive addiction, then you have a disconnection from the world. You get egocentrism, sleep deprivation, poor academic performance, insecurity, antisocial behaviors, loneliness. One thing which is also low self-esteem, because constantly you see Insta stories, everybody's posting, this guy's partying and this guy's doing that, and you feel worse about yourself. In fact, bullying and all may also lead to a lot of personality development in that sort. What phone you have, ये सब चीजें इंडिया में बहुत ज्यादा होती है. Okay, you have anybody has any questions so far? No. Okay. um so moving on to your culture, your cultural values, beliefs, these have a very strong impact on your personality. So, for example, Indian kids will feel a lot more guilty if they disobey their parents as compared to, say, Western society, because वहाँ पे independent thought and all of that is promoted more, whereas here obedience is more important and all of those things. In the same way, say something like some cultures where people party after death. Okay, here if you feel kind of, a lot of people come for counseling only because they feel that, oh my god, my mother passed away and I'm not feeling sad. The reason why that child is not feeling sad is because the mother was suffering a lot and she's happy that okay, now she's free from this. But then in India, your personality, you may feel guilt or something like that, because it's your cultural values, beliefs which influence your thoughts, feelings and behavior patterns. um, Positively, you see leadership qualities, your listening skills, all of these things, like for example, sincerity, working hard, all of these also is something that we learn from our culture. Okay. Now there are different perspectives to studying psychology, personality, just like we studied intelligence. So the first is psychoanalytic perspective. Do you guys remember who gave this perspective? Unconscious mind, the guy who spoke of unconscious mind. Okay, last time, Tanish, do you remember who is this guy who spoke about unconscious mind?
Second.
It's Sigmund Freud. He is the father, I mean, he's the guy who made psychoanalysis. Okay. So I know that in these chapters we've not studied it in depth at all, but Sigmund Freud is the person who basically brought the psychoanalytic, he brought the word, and yeah, he spoke about psychoanalysis, basically analyzing your mind and your unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind is all filled with repressed memories and desires and everything from your childhood. So in detail, I mean, I'll tell some other day where we'll speak about Freud especially. But unconscious mind, basically he says that we have this unconscious conscious mind is what we are aware of, unconscious is what we are not aware of. So he said we have a lot of repressed sexual desires which are all in your unconscious mind from your childhood. So psychoanalytic perspective believes that early childhood experience and unconscious mind have a very important role to play in the development of personality. So how your parents treated you, what you felt about things, and it's a very useful perspective because how you were treated as a child, all of this makes a very big difference. Humanistic perspective, on the other hand, says that uh, it believes in free will and psychological growth in the personality development of so humanistic was Carl Rogers. You guys remember we studied in the first chapter. This guy said that everybody has a free will and they want to, so that is important in personality development of an individual. Third was the trait perspective. Specific traits in different quantities, so every individual has a unique personality. These guys say that your traits, you have specific traits. For example, you might have a trait of aggression or those kinds of traits, and that leads to your unique personality, and you have many, a combination of many traits, okay, which lead to a personality. And your type perspective basically has categorized personality in different types, like type A, B, C, and D, and you fall into one of these. According to your physique, temperament, mental characteristics, you can fall into either of these categories. And the social cognitive perspective basically says that whatever you observe and learn and your thinking basically leads to your personality development. Okay. Carl Jung was Sigmund Freud's student, and his theory of personality, he was the first person who spoke about introverts and extroverts. Okay, he was a Swiss psychiatrist, and he said that people are divided into introverts who are basically shy, reserved, they look into themselves. Although shy, reserved is not exactly the, shy is not necessarily introverts, could be basically a person who um, is more they are more into themselves, you know, they would like spending time reading a book instead of going meeting other people. They don't want to have social contacts. There was another guy, Isaac, who said that introverts are like that because they have so much neuronal activity going on in their brain that they don't want additional disturbance from outside, so they are likely to be intelligent and all that. But like extroverts basically, on the other hand, they want external stimulation. They go out, want to meet friends and those kinds of people. Okay, now Alport's theory of personality is so no kind of personality is good or bad. Basically, a lot of people come complaining, "मेरी बेटी को counseling करो, वो introvert है." That's not a need. You don't need to go make it, unless obviously her she's so reserved that she's so withdrawn that she doesn't communicate with anyone. That's different. But in general, if she likes to read books over meeting people, it's fine. Okay, Alport's theory of personality, he basically identified 18,000 different words which could describe personality. Okay, and he made three categories. One was the cardinal trait. We've studied this in detail. So cardinal trait is that one trait which defines you separately, like compassion in Mother Teresa, or say truthfulness in Gandhi. Okay, central traits basically, truthfulness in Gandhi ji and Mother Teresa's compassion, or say Kailash Satyarthi's compassion. All of these are like those one cardinal traits which define that person. Okay, central traits are basically your 5 to 10 traits which are your basic foundation. So say you have 5 to 10 of these traits, like um, you're soft spoken, you're honest, you're aggressive. These are basically your 5 to 10 cardinal central traits, which are not just general, but they are specific to you. They basically, sorry, they are central traits, which are your building blocks of personality. So if you have like a sociable nature, you're sensitive, these are your central traits. Your secondary traits are basically situation specific. So basically, you are not an anxious person in general, but when you are made to speak in a group, you feel anxious. You're not aggressive person in general, but when things just go totally out of hand, you just get aggressive. So these are your secondary traits. Now, out of these guy, this guy who got 18,000 personality, then this guy Cattell, he made it into 16 personality factors, which is not mentioned anywhere here. So you don't need to know, but I'm just telling you कि इसके बाद Cattell आया, and then after Cattell, these 5 out of those 5 also, so 18,000 से लेके uh, actually 18,000 से 40 हुआ था, 40 से 16 personality factors हुए, and from then now they have come to 5 factor model. So basically they have narrowed it down to only 5, so everything else in general falls into these 5 major categories, and these categories are called ocean. So ocean are openness to experience. I don't know why I don't have markings in this. We have lost it. But basically, your openness to experiences, how open you are to learning new things. The opposite of that would be uh, closed to experience, close to learning new things, close-minded person, rigid. Conscientiousness is your how committed you are to your work. Are you self-disciplined? You are motivated. You're responsible in doing your work. And people who are low conscientious are those people who keep procrastinating, are lazy, don't want to work. Extroverts are, again, we studied introverts, extroverts, so they like meeting people, whereas introverts are more likely to be into the less involved, they are into themselves. Agreeableness is basically how people who are highly agreeable, basically they are also compassionate, they help others, they feel that um, yeah, they will agree they don't have very strong boundaries, whereas people who are low agreeable, a lot of times they're a little selfish, they will say no immediately. If they don't want to do something, they will not do it, don't cooperate. So these are low agreeableness traits. Like high agreeableness traits, people are a lot compassionate, like social workers, and a lot of times low agreeableness traits you will find in some very strict boss or those kind of people. Neuroticism is basically how your tendency towards negative emotions, basically how much stress you take, how easily you get anxiety, or mm, extremely high people high on neuroticism tend to get stressed about small things also. They get overwhelmed as compared to low neuroticism people. So they have these I have this test, if you guys want to do, we'll do it for you. So basically this measures your personality. Now the measurement of personality can be done using behavioral analysis. Do we have this part?
Yeah.
Or is it? Yeah, okay. So your behavioral analysis includes your interview. So in interview process, you're asking a person information about his personality. You're also judging your non-verbal gestures. Interview has two types. One is structured, where you have predetermined questions, and you have the fixed number of questions you ask. This, for example, if you are doing a job interview and you want to ask the same questions to all the people who come one after the other, that is structured. Unstructured basically is now as per the, like a lot of your vivas, as per people start answering, uske upar se the teacher will see ki, oh, acha, so you know this part, so she'll ask you more about that if you don't know something. So unstructured doesn't have a sequence, it doesn't have a fixed number of like ye question पूछेंगे. It's basically unstructured. Another part of behavioral analysis is observation. Okay, another part of behavioral analysis is observation, which means the psychologist is the observer, and he has the clear. So we studied observation in the first chapter, which is naturalistic and laboratory observation. We have participant observation. Participant means the psychologist is also being a part of some activity, and the person who's being observed doesn't know that necessarily. And so these different types of observation helps you understand you, an, an analysis of a person's behavior. And then we do very in-depth techniques of these, like for example kids who sit and we kind of show them, we make a whole chart ki, okay, in this lecture he feels aggressive, in this lecture he doesn't. So basically that's how we observe. Okay. Another thing is self-report inventory. So your MMPI, Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, 16PF. I just told you 16PF a little while back. I said that after Alport, Cattell made it to 16 personality factors. So that is 16PF by Cattell. This is also self-report inventory. MBTI is also self-report. Your HSPQ is self-report. I have most of these tests. So basically, these tests have a certain question which you have to report yourself, that, oh, I feel like this and I feel like that. Agree, disagree, these kinds of things you have to, like, see here, I'm easygoing, strongly disagree, somewhat disagree. So this is like a self-report. Even the Ocean Big Five, that is also self-report inventory. Okay. Projective methods is it's called the neo by the ocean की personality test is called neo FFI, neo 5 factor inventory, or neo PI, neo personality inventory. uh, okay, the next way is projective, the next technique is projective methods, which is very interesting. uh, if you guys have seen me doing some counseling, I do some drawing. I make people do, I tell people to make drawings and then ask questions related to that. So projective methods basically are, they come a lot from psychoanalytic school of thought. Again, psychoanalytic was Sigmund Freud. Okay,
Sigmund Freud.
speaking about the unconscious and hidden desires and conflicts. So projective, I really find this very interesting, because a lot of times psychology is something where, for example, you want to look good, socially desirable. That's why you will ask something like, if I say I enjoy time alone, and you think it's not a good thing to say, so you will say disagree, even though you do. Or I work well with others, so you're likely to put agree, because you may want to look good. Some people are, they want to naturally look good, they don't want to give a bad impression. The psychoanalytic perspective on the other, so here you can be fake, but psychoanalytic perspective is, if I show you a piece of paper or show you a drawing, and you just have to say things about it, make story out of it, so you are just making stories out of it, but they give a lot of projections of your unconscious, your hidden feelings, which you also may not be at your unconscious level, which you may not be aware of. So these projective methods basically focus on where the individual can freely respond to any unstructured or ambiguous materials. Okay, and they project, while responding, they are projecting their own personalities onto this stimulus. So you might think that, okay, you're speaking about, say, this picture here, but it might also, so these are just ink blots. um, but you might think you're speaking about this, but different people may see it differently. Like a child who's had a big fear, say, of, so he might see this as booth, somebody else might see it as a bat, somebody might see it as a butterfly. It shows a lot of, it reflects your personality in those variables. Okay, so now this, we'll have to know the details. Rorschach, I had marked this, I hope you guys have the markings. I don't know, I've lost it somehow. Rorschach's 1921 ink blot test, I have only lost for this chapter, I don't know why. So he made it in 1921. Unfortunately, he died before he even made the full analysis and all of that. But it was a very useful test, because he has 10 cards of these irregular ink blots of black and white, and five are in black and white and five are in color. Okay, and they are against a white background, and they have a fixed number of ways in, like, they are numbered. So first card, second card, and then we are supposed to write down what the person is speaking, and then we're supposed to do a whole big analysis. The same is with TAT, which is thematic apperception test, by Morgan and Murray in 1935. The Indian version of this was made by Uma Chaudhary, which you don't need to know, actually, it's not mentioned here. But this test also follows a certain order, and in Indian they have Indian pictures, so like a woman in sari and all that, and you're supposed to give stories and what led up to it, and what was the past, and what will happen in the future, those kinds of things. Another one is sentence completion. So I feel afraid of dash, I wish dash, my mother dash. So you're likely to project his or your own personality variables on this. So that was your personality chapter. Just a quick summary. You've got to know your chapter before I give you a summary. You guys have any questions?
Wow.
Okay, you all understood everything?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.